At the tender age of 8, the triplets were unaware of their father's existence until fate brought them together at their mother's resting place. Before we embark on this narrative journey, please share your location in the comments below. Delight in the narrative, as the brisk wind coursed through Oakwood Cemetery in Rhode Island, stirring the golden brown leaves that had started to accumulate around the newly excavated grave. The sky hung heavy in a muted gray, perfectly mirroring the sorrow that enveloped the mourners. In their midst was Jackson Montgomery, a figure renowned for his vast fortune, his thriving business empire, and the influence that accompanied his status as one of Wall Street's most formidable investors. However, at this moment, all of that was irrelevant. Today, he was merely a man grappling with the absence of his beloved wife. Eleanor had served as his steadfast support. She was the sole witness to the man concealed by the millions, the one making the ruthless decisions, hidden beneath the suit and tie. They had crafted a shared existence, rich with affection, joy, and a tinge of remorse. The absence of children had lingered in their hearts, a shadow they had come to accept. Now, as he stood beside her grave, watching the coffin descend into the ground, a profound emptiness enveloped him. It felt like a piece of him had been interred alongside her. The funeral was magnificent, just as anticipated. The distinguished individuals of Rhode Island convened, some moved by authentic grief, while others attended merely for the sake of the season's most notable social affair. Colleagues, business partners, and friends stepped forward to express their condolences, each handshake and hug feeling somewhat mechanical. Jackson hardly took any of it in. His world had turned quiet, engulfed by the remnants of Eleanor's laughter, the soothing cadence of her voice that would forever remain beyond his hearing. He longed for the crowd to vanish, to grant him solitude in his sorrow, yet he understood that such a wish was futile. A man of his nature was never genuinely solitary, save for the aspects that truly counted. As the service concluded and individuals began to disperse, Jackson stood motionless, gazing at the gleaming wood of the coffin now blanketed in earth. His fingers quivered ever so slightly as he drew his coat closer, the chill gnawing at the fabric. His driver, Thomas, an older man who had been with him for some time, maintained a respectful distance, understanding that his employer required this moment. Jackson inhaled deeply and began to walk away, but then something peculiar caught his attention. 3 diminutive silhouettes lingered at the periphery of the cemetery, partially obscured by the towering oak tree. 3 identical little girls with auburn hair neatly tied back in ponytails, dressed in matching navy blue coats. Their faces were ashen, their expressions inscrutable as they observed him with a focus that felt far beyond their age. They stood out from the other attendees with their unique attire. Amidst the crowd adorned in luxurious black coats and stylish scarves, the children stood out in their modest jackets and unembellished dresses. They appeared to be around 8 years old, and there was an unsettling harmony in the way they stood, hands intertwined as if gathering strength from each other. Jackson furrowed his brow, attempting to identify them. He couldn't place them from any family events, nor did they seem to fit in with the business associates who had been present. Yet there was an undeniable quality about them, something that quickened his heartbeat ever so slightly. He was baffled by the reason. One of the girls, indistinguishable from the others, took a tentative step forward, then paused as if weighing her choice. Their eyes locked for an instant, and Jackson experienced an inexplicable attraction to them. Just as he was about to speak or make a move toward them, all 3 pivoted in flawless synchronization and strolled away, vanishing behind the grand oak tree. "Excuse me, sir." Thomas's voice interrupted his contemplation. "The vehicle is prepared." Jackson cast a look toward the spot where the triplets had disappeared, then sighed in disbelief. It was likely just a trivial matter. Perhaps they were connected to the cemetery caretaker, or maybe they resided close by and were just intrigued by the sizable assembly. He brushed off the peculiar meeting and made his way to the car, his thoughts already plunging back into the depths of sorrow. That night, as he perched in his penthouse with a view of the Manhattan skyline, the haunting image of the 3 identical girls lingered in his mind. He had never been one to linger on unfamiliar faces, yet an undeniable sense of importance surrounded their presence at the cemetery. He filled a glass with whiskey, the rich amber liquid swirling gently beneath the soft glow of his study's light. His gaze drifted to a framed photograph of Eleanor resting on his desk. "I long for you," he murmured, his voice trembling just a bit. Eleanor had always possessed a unique ability to find significance in the world around her, holding steadfast to the belief that every occurrence unfolded for a purpose. Had she been present, she would have advised him to heed his instincts regarding the girls. He exhaled softly and savored a sip of his drink, reassuring himself that it was merely sorrow weaving illusions in his thoughts. Yet, beneath the surface, he was aware that this encounter would not be their final farewell. Jackson Montgomery was not the type to linger on bygone days or fixate on trivial instances, yet inexplicably, the vision of the three identical little girls haunted his thoughts. That night, slumber eluded me. He lay awake in his Manhattan penthouse, gazing at the ceiling, attuned to the distant hum of the city. Whenever he shut his eyes, they appeared once more, gathered by the oak tree, their faces ghostly, their motions in perfect harmony, gazing at him with a familiarity that was unsettling. By morning, he assured himself that he was merely overanalyzing. The funeral had drained him emotionally, and perhaps he had merely conjured the importance of the moment in his mind. Grief can weave peculiar illusions in the mind. The following afternoon, Jackson sat in his office on the 54th floor of investments, gazing vacantly at the quarterly reports. His assistant had lined up a series of meetings, yet he hardly focused on any of them. His thoughts drifted, captivated by the three enigmatic girls. He devoted his life to making thoughtful choices, tackling challenges, and forecasting market movements with accuracy. Still, he couldn't dispel the sense that this was significant, something he had to grasp. Feeling exasperated, he grabbed his phone and dialed Thomas. "I need you to do something for me," Jackson said as soon as his driver picked up. "Do you recall those three little girls at the cemetery yesterday, the ones who lingered by the oak tree?" A moment of silence hung in the air before Thomas finally replied. "Absolutely, sir. Three identical sisters. It appears they are observing the service from afar." "Precisely. I must uncover their identities." Jackson ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair, fully aware of how peculiar his request might seem. "Inquire with the cemetery staff, they might have observed something noteworthy. Discover all that you can." Thomas accepted without hesitation, one of the numerous reasons Jackson held him in high regard, and concluded the call. Later that evening, as Jackson lounged in his penthouse with a drink in hand, his phone buzzed to life. It was Thomas. "Sir, I have located them." Jackson straightened his posture, feeling his heart race. "Who are these individuals?" "Harper, Haley, and Hannah Wilson are the names in question. At the age of 8, they reside in Brooklyn with their Aunt Charlotte, and—" Thomas paused, uncertainty flickering in his mind. "Excuse me, but there's an additional matter to discuss. Their mother was a woman known as Meredith Wilson." The glass almost tumbled from my grasp. From Jackson's grasp at the utterance of that name. Meredith Wilson. A name that had faded from memory for nearly 10 years, yet remained etched in his mind. They encountered each other at a university fundraiser, where she shone as an exceptional young professor of literature. Their connection was fleeting yet charged with passion. A tempest of fervor, mental synergy, and untapped potential that concluded when his profession necessitated a relocation to London. "Excuse me, sir." Thomas's voice drew him back to the moment at hand. "There's additional information to consider. Meredith departed from this world 3 months ago. Blood cancer." Jackson felt a constriction in his throat. "What about the girls? Did you mention there are 8? "Absolutely, sir. Born on May 12, 9 years past. 9 years. The timing was impeccably suited to their relationship. A profound understanding enveloped him, pressing down like a burden. "Thanks, Thomas." He was able to utter those words just before ending the call. Jackson approached the window, gazing at the twinkling city lights beneath him, his thoughts swirling with possibilities. 3 identical sisters. At the age of 8. Meredith's children. His girls. Thomas showed up at Jackson's penthouse bright and early the following morning, clutching a manila folder. Jackson lay awake, his thoughts swirling with questions and possibilities, a mounting sense of certainty looming over him, ready to upend everything he knew. "Everything I could find is in here, sir," Thomas said, setting the folder down on the glass coffee table. "It wasn't a straightforward task, but I have a connection in public records." Jackson nodded, his hand lingering in uncertainty before he finally opened the folder. Contained within were the birth certificates of Harper Grace Wilson, Haley Rose Wilson, and Hannah Faith Wilson, each arriving into the world within mere minutes of one another at New York Presbyterian Hospital. Mom, Meredith Wilson. Father, not mentioned. His throat constricted as he scrutinized the school registration forms, medical records, and ultimately, the death certificate for Meredith Wilson, listing complications from acute myeloid leukemia as the cause of death. Charlotte Wilson, the aunt, serves as a high school counselor in Brooklyn, Thomas continued. "I've been taking care of the girls since Meredith left us. It seems they are facing some financial difficulties. Medical expenses erased all of Meredith's savings." Jackson gazed intently at a newspaper clipping detailing Meredith's impressive academic accomplishments. A tenured professor of English literature at Columbia by the age of 32, a published author, and held in high regard within her discipline. And all the while, nurturing triplet daughters on my own. "One more thing," Thomas said, a hint of hesitation in his voice. "This was discovered by me." He presented Jackson with a photograph, featuring 3 little girls in tutus at what seemed to be a ballet recital, their matching faces radiating happiness. Behind them stood Meredith, more slender than Jackson recalled, her once lively features now drawn, yet her smile shone with a brilliance of pride. Something shattered within Jackson. She had kept it to herself. For all those years, he had daughters, 3 stunning daughters, and remained unaware. Did she withhold them from him out of malice or for another reason entirely? "Have you discovered any reasons for her lack of communication with me?" Jackson inquired, his voice scarcely rising above a murmur. Thomas shook his head in disbelief. "No solid information, sir. However, I did have a conversation with a neighbor who was quite familiar with Meredith. They described her as someone who was fiercely independent and never wished to appear as though she was seeking assistance. It seemed she confided in her friends that the girl's father had emphasized his career as a priority, indicating that he had progressed to more significant opportunities." Jackson shut his eyes, recalling their last exchange before he departed for London. Meredith had urged him to remain, expressing that they could create something genuine together. He brushed it off as unrealistic idealism, explaining to her that his career trajectory was established and could not allow for deep connections. He was filled with youth, ambition, and a touch of folly. Discover their location, Jackson declared, as the choice solidified in his thoughts. And their timetables, education, pursuits, all of it. "Sir, if I could interject," Thomas said with caution, "these girls have just experienced the loss of their mother. They are unaware of your existence. It could be worthwhile to consider reaching out to them." "I'm aware," Jackson cut in. "I must exercise caution. I won't intrude into their lives and declare myself as their father. However, I must see them, Thomas. I must grasp what Meredith has crafted in my absence." That afternoon, Jackson found himself in his town car, positioned across from PS 107 in Park Slope, observing the flow of children as they exited the building. Suddenly, he spotted them, 3 identical girls clad in navy blue school uniforms, their backpacks casually draped over their shoulders, moving in perfect unison. Their daughters, the young women destined to transform it all. For the upcoming week, Jackson Montgomery led a life of duality. By day, he was the merciless financier, orchestrating transactions and dominating corporate meetings. As the afternoon waned, he became a quiet watcher, stationed unobtrusively close to ballet studios, schoolyards, and parks, locations where Harper, Haley, and Hannah frequented. He discerned their rhythms. Ballet lessons took place on Mondays and Wednesdays. On Thursdays, they participated in an after-school art program. Every Friday, their Aunt Charlotte treated them to ice cream at a quaint little shop in Park Slope. He observed them from afar, seeing reflections of himself in each girl, the resolute tilt of Harper's jaw, Haley's keen eye for detail, and Hannah's fluid gracefulness. Yet, it fell short. He craved deeper understanding. "I desire it all," Jackson expressed to Thomas. "Details about medical history, academic evaluations, social circles, and reading preferences. I seek to comprehend them." Thomas, steadfast in his loyalty yet growing more apprehensive, gathered whatever he could find. "Sir," he said with caution, presenting another folder, "there's something you ought to see first." Within lay a letter, not directed to Jackson, but intended for the girls. It was discovered among Meredith's belongings following her passing, as per Thomas's contact at the hospital where she had spent her last days. Jackson carefully opened the pages, his hands shaking slightly as he instantly recognized Meredith's graceful script. "My beloved daughters, if you are seeing this, it signifies that I have departed from you earlier than I had hoped. There are countless lessons I long to impart, and an abundance of moments I yearn to experience together. Understand this, you have brought me the utmost happiness, my 3 extraordinary blessings. I have something important to share with you regarding your father. Jackson Montgomery is his name. He was exceptional, driven, and for a fleeting moment, the passion of my existence. When I found out I was expecting you, he had already embarked on a new journey in London. I made a decision back then, maybe it was right, maybe it was wrong, to keep you a secret from him. It wasn't due to a lack of concern. I recognized his journey distinctly, a promising future that demanded his unwavering commitment. I found it unbearable to be the one who compelled him to make a choice, or even worse, to face his resentment for altering the path of his life. I made the decision for all of us and welcomed the rewarding challenge of nurturing you on my own. I have never looked back on that choice, not when I witnessed your initial smiles, listened to your first words, or observed you taking your first steps. Yet, I frequently find myself pondering whether there may come a time when you could require his presence, or perhaps he could find himself in need of yours. If you ever decide to seek him out, understand that my decision does not constrain you. Indeed, you are correct. My affection endures, eternally and unconditionally." Mom Jackson read the letter 3 times, tears flowing down his cheeks. She hadn't kept the girls from him due to any ill intent or resentment. She had granted him the liberty to chase his dreams, carrying the weight by herself. The burden of her sacrifice overwhelmed him. "She didn't even make an effort to reach out to me," he murmured, almost as if lost in his own thoughts rather than speaking to Thomas. Thomas spoke softly, relaying what her sister Charlotte had mentioned, that she had nearly done it once. At the time the girls turned 3, Meredith faced significant financial challenges. She did some digging, discovered your marriage to Eleanor, and appeared to be witnessing the very life she had envisioned for you unfold. She chose at that moment to allow you your space. Jackson shut his eyes, picturing Meredith by herself with 3 toddlers, striving to provide for them, never seeking assistance. Though he and Eleanor possessed everything they could desire, the absence of the children they longed for cast a shadow of unbearable irony over their lives. "I must meet them," he declared at last. "Not in the way their father did, not just yet. Yet, I find myself compelled to be a part of their lives." Jackson perched on a park bench in Prospect Park, his heart pounding beneath his laid-back outfit. The tailored suit had vanished, giving way to jeans and a straightforward button-down, a deliberate effort to appear less imposing. Thomas had set up this meeting with the help of Charlotte Wilson, who had surprisingly warmed up once Jackson introduced himself and presented Meredith's letter. Charlotte had informed him over the phone that they recognize him as someone who knew their mother. "That concludes everything for the moment. The remainder is in your hands." As he stood there, observing the route that Charlotte would take with the girls, Jackson mentally prepared his words. "How do you present yourself to the children you've brought into the world but have yet to meet? Kids who had recently lost their mom and were completely unaware of his true identity. He noticed them before they became aware of his presence. 3 identical figures dressed in jackets of varying colors. Harper dressed in red, Haley adorned in blue, and Hannah sporting purple. Charlotte had mentioned that they were adamant about wearing different colors, a subtle act of defiance against being perceived as a single entity instead of 3 distinct individuals. Charlotte locked eyes with him and gave a subtle nod, bending slightly to share a secret with the girls. They drew near, carefully observing him with matching looks of intrigue and doubt. "Girls, this is Mr. Montgomery," Charlotte announced. "The acquaintance of your mother that I mentioned to you." Jackson rose abruptly, a sense of awkwardness washing over him as he felt out of place and larger than life among them. "Hello," he spoke, his voice gentler than usual. "I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me." The girls remained silent, presenting a cohesive facade. Charlotte waved her hand in the direction of a nearby playground. "Why don't you 3 take some time to play while Mr. Montgomery and I have a conversation?" The triplets shared knowing looks, engaging in one of those unspoken dialogues that only those with a special bond can understand. At last, they approached the swings, their eyes still fixed on Jackson. Over their shoulders, "That's Harper in red," Charlotte clarified, seated next to him. "She stands as the guardian, the eldest among them." Haley in blue embodies a contemplative spirit, perpetually dissecting thoughts and probing deeper into the unknown. Hannah, adorned in purple, embodies the essence of harmony, the one who experiences emotions with profound intensity. Jackson nodded, making an effort to etch their differences into his mind. "How much she resembles Meredith," he whispered, observing Hannah's delicate gestures. "They all carry fragments of her," Charlotte remarked, "along with fragments of you. Harper embodies your resolve, Haley reflects your keen intellect, and Hannah showcases your creative spirit, even if you don't see it in yourself." They observed the girls at play, keeping their distance from the other children, content in their own company. "They have endured a great deal," Charlotte continued. "Meredith endured illness for nearly a year, prior to this." Her voice faded into silence. "They are currently in the midst of processing. Harper has become quite silent lately. Haley experiences unsettling dreams. Hannah repeatedly sketches the same image. A mother lies in a hospital bed. Jackson experienced a constriction in his chest. I wish to assist them. With all due respect, Mr. Montgomery, your financial support is unnecessary for them. They require a sense of steadiness and reliability. If you choose to be a part of their lives, you must commit fully." Before Jackson had a chance to reply, Harper moved toward the other 2 who were following her. She positioned herself squarely before him, her arms folded defiantly. "Did you truly know our mother?" she asserted, her voice powerful even in her petite frame. Jackson locked eyes with her, sensing the challenge that lay within. "Indeed," he stated honestly. "Once upon a time. What kept you from visiting her? What brings us to this moment of finally meeting you?" Jackson cast a quick look at Charlotte, who responded with a subtle nod. He cast a glance over his shoulder at Harper. "I resided at a considerable distance for numerous years. Had I been aware of your presence, I would have made the trip to see you all." Harper's gaze sharpened. "It seems you have quite a fortune, don't you? I noticed your vehicle." "Harper." Charlotte chided softly. "It's all right," Jackson remarked. "Indeed, I am." Harper's next words pierced through the silence with sharp precision. "So, why didn't you assist Mom when she was unwell? Affluent individuals have access to exclusive medical professionals." The clarity of her reasoning, the challenge in her gaze, Jackson found himself without a rebuttal. Before he could craft a reply, Hannah moved closer and examined his expression closely. "Mom gently mentioned that there was a picture of you in her special box." Silence enveloped the room, leaving everyone momentarily speechless. Then Haley, who had been silently taking in the whole interaction, posed the question that shifted the entire dynamic. "Did you have feelings for our mom? Did you have feelings for our mom?" Haley's question lingered in the atmosphere, and for a fleeting instant, Jackson sensed that he had lost the ability to draw in air. 3 identical pairs of eyes observed him with eager anticipation, their gaze imbued with a sincerity that only the innocence of youth could convey. This was not a formal negotiation in a boardroom. No clever response could earn him any favor or seal the agreement. Only truth existed. Indeed, he replied with a straightforward tone. Indeed, I was. A change flickered across the girl's face. A delicate shift, yet undeniable. Next to speak was Hannah, her voice soft and soothing. Her smile transformed when she spoke of you, a unique glow that set it apart from her usual expression. Jackson gulped nervously. What did she say regarding me? Harper clenched her arms even more firmly. Nothing much, just that you were clever and driven and resided quite a distance away. She remarked that you were destined to transform the world, Haley interjected, her keen eyes continuing to scrutinize him. Did you really? The question hit Jackson with the force of a punch. Had he transformed the world? He had amassed a fortune, dominated industries, and reshaped cityscapes through his financial ventures. As he sits here, gazing at these 3 little girls, his daughters, all of. That felt strikingly empty. I made an effort, he replied with sincerity, yet I find myself questioning whether I achieved what truly counts. Charlotte rose to her feet, gently resting a hand on Harper's shoulder. Ladies, it might be time for us to make our way back home. As the hours pass, the evening deepens and... Do you have ballet scheduled for the morning? May I have the pleasure of your company once more? Jackson inquired, his gaze aimed more at the triplets than at Charlotte. The girls shared knowing looks, engaging in yet another unspoken discussion. At last, Harper voiced the sentiments of the group. Perhaps. We'll consider it carefully. As he observed them stroll away, hand in hand with their aunt, Jackson experienced a sensation he hadn't felt in decades, a profound sense of helplessness regarding the unfolding situation. These 3 little beings possessed all the authority, and justly so. That night, in his penthouse, Jackson gazed out through the expansive windows that framed the skyline of Manhattan, a city he had significantly influenced through numerous investments and developments. The view had always brought him a sense of fulfillment, yet tonight it left him feeling hollow. He strolled through the pristine expanse, 5,000 square feet of opulence that abruptly seemed overwhelming and desolate. The guest rooms had always remained child-free. The kitchen was filled with. I've never witnessed tiny hands creating chaos. The corridors had always remained silent, devoid of laughter or the sound of hurried footsteps racing from one room to another. Jackson sat in his home office, encircled by accolades, financial documents, and reminders of his career achievements. He opened his laptop and began to type, entering "Raising Triplet Girls" into the search bar. Before long, he found himself deeply engaged in articles exploring the intricacies of multiple birth psychology, the significance of acknowledging individuality, and the prevalent developmental challenges faced. By morning, his desk was strewn with notes. He had requested books on child development, explored the top schools in the city, and gathered details on ballet programs. He had even explored homes in desirable school districts, locations with yards, individual bedrooms for each girl, and room to expand. As the first light of dawn broke, he reached out to Thomas. Please clear my schedule for the upcoming 2 weeks. All aspects remain intact, with the exception of the Collins merger, which will be excluded. Thomas, familiar with Jackson's exacting demeanor yet unaccustomed to taking personal time off, found himself hesitating. Sir, the investor meeting in Boston is scheduled tomorrow, when the board anticipates. Cancel everything, Jackson interjected. And locate someone who understands children's spaces, whether they are decorators, designers, or whatever title they go by. I seek to grasp the essence of creating a space where 3 8-year-old girls could eventually feel at ease. Certainly, sir, Thomas responded, concealing his astonishment. Should I set up another meeting with Ms. Wilson and the girls? Jackson gazed at the photograph he had received of the triplets during their ballet recital. Not at this moment. They must determine when they are prepared. For now, I have tasks to attend to. For the first time in his adult life, Jackson Montgomery found himself gearing up for something that his wealth couldn't merely procure. The faith of 3 young girls, who had every justification to maintain their distance, and who possessed the keys to a future he had never envisioned. After a long wait of 12 days, Charlotte finally made the call. In just 12 days, Jackson had completely revamped the east wing of his penthouse, sought advice from child psychologists, and reorganized his corporate framework to ensure his afternoons were liberated. For 12 days, he was consumed by the uncertainty of whether he would ever hear from his daughters again. Charlotte mentioned that there is a ballet showcase this Saturday, her tone steady and composed. Hannah hinted that you might be interested in attending, and Jackson tightened his grip on his phone. Did Hannah really say that? Indeed. Particularly Hannah. A moment of stillness. Mr. Montgomery, I must express myself clearly. They remain unaware of your true essence. They believe you're simply a long-lost companion of Meredith's who has re-entered their world. Jackson acknowledged this, though the dishonesty weighed heavily on his mind. Feel free to call me Jackson. Jackson then. The exhibition commences at 3 o'clock. Parkside Ballet Academy. On Saturday, Jackson occupied a seat in the back row of a cozy auditorium, surrounded by parents, grandparents, and siblings, all holding bouquets and cameras. He felt distinctly out of place in his casual attire, still unable to merge with the crowd despite his attempts. The program showcased the Triplets in the intermediate group performance of the waltz from the Flowers in the Nutcracker. As they stepped onto the stage clad in matching pale pink tutus, Jackson felt a sudden catch in his breath. They glided with an unexpected elegance for their age, their harmony both unsettling and captivating. Even in flawless harmony, he could perceive their distinctions. Harper's movements are more precise. Haley possesses a greater level of technical expertise. Hannah shows more emotion. A woman beside him murmured, "They're quite talented. Such remarkable discipline at their age." Jackson nodded, words caught in his throat, a heavy silence enveloping him. A wave of unfamiliar and overwhelming pride surged through him. These remarkable children carried his genetic legacy. Yet he had played no role in shaping their growth, their abilities, their strength. Following the performance, he lingered in the lobby, a modest bouquet clutched in his hand. As the Triplets appeared alongside Charlotte, their faces glowed with a mix of effort and exhilaration. Hannah was the first to notice him. She pulled gently at Harper's sleeve and gestured. The trio drew near, adorned in their theatrical makeup and flowing tutus. "You came," Hannah said, a trace of astonishment in her tone. "I said I would," Jackson replied, kneeling to their level and presenting the flowers with a gentle smile. "Your performance was truly remarkable." Haley took the bouquet, scrutinizing it with her characteristic keen eye. "These are exquisite, roses. These aren't available at typical flower shops," Jackson smiled. "You have a keen understanding of your flowers." "Mom was a botanist before she took on the role of a professor," Harper remarked, her defenses still in place but a touch less confrontational than earlier. "She imparted to us all the Latin nomenclature." "Rosa centifolia," Hannah murmured gently. "Mother's cherished choice." Jackson felt a sudden flutter in his chest. He had selected Meredith's favorite without realizing it, a serendipitous moment that seemed to carry a deeper meaning. He suggested, "Would you like to get ice cream to celebrate your performance?" The girls turned their gaze to Charlotte, who gave a subtle nod. "We were on our way there regardless. We would be delighted to have you with us, Jackson." At the ice cream parlor, Jackson observed the girls passionately discussing flavors, negotiating tastes and combinations with the finesse of experienced negotiators. As they settled in with their extravagant sundaes, he caught Haley observing him intently from behind her spoon. "What brings you back at this moment?" she inquired abruptly. "Following my mother's passing." Charlotte felt a surge of tension, yet Jackson was ready for this inquiry. He spoke honestly, I only found out about your mother's passing recently. Upon discovering my desire to meet you, he hesitated, selecting his words with great care. Since your mother held a special place in my heart, I hoped I could also become a friend to the three of you. We have companions, Harper stated matter-of-factly. Certainly, Jackson recognized, yet there are times when having friends who are adults can be beneficial as well. Individuals who offer assistance with various tasks. What do you mean? Hannah inquired, her curiosity piqued. Jackson paused to reflect. I have a good amount of knowledge about the city. I could take you to locations that your mother may have found delightful. Or assist with assignments. Feel free to share whenever you're ready to chat. The triplets shared knowing looks, engaging in yet another of their unspoken dialogues. We'll consider it, Harper finally replied, her usual response. As they were departing, Hannah briefly intertwined her small hand with Jackson's. She whispered her gratitude for the flowers and for being there to witness their dance. It was a small act, yet to Jackson, it seemed profoundly significant. The first delicate bridge spanning the chasm between them is, are you certain this is a wise choice? Thomas inquired, gazing at the unassuming brownstone apartment building and the surrounding park slope. Jackson fiddled with the collar of his shirt, a strange sense of unease washing over him. Charlotte extended an invitation to me. She mentioned that the girls have something they want to share with me. 3 weeks had passed since the ballet showcase. During that period, Jackson had gone to another show, enjoyed ice cream with them on 2 occasions, and even watched a children's film featuring talking animals, which he found unexpectedly captivating. Every encounter was fleeting, meticulously overseen by Charlotte, and concluded before any genuine advancement could occur. However, receiving an invitation to their home felt like a meaningful milestone. Charlotte swung the door open just as he was about to knock, offering him a courteous smile that lacked genuine warmth. She remarked softly that there's a sense of excitement, which feels different. However, do keep in mind that they remain delicate. The cozy apartment, though compact, radiated warmth. Its walls adorned with children's artwork, bookshelves brimmed with cherished volumes, and photographs were scattered throughout, capturing moments of joy. A multitude of photographs captures Meredith with the girls, babies, toddlers, at the beach, in the snow, blowing out birthday candles, a vivid chronicle of a life he had completely overlooked. Mr. Montgomery. Hannah was the first to notice him, hurrying out from what seemed to be the kitchen. Her visage bore the marks of flour, yet her eyes sparkled with life. We're crafting Mom's delightful cookies, come take a look. He trailed behind her into a snug kitchen where Harper and Haley were meticulously measuring out ingredients. 3 identical step stools enabled them to access the counter, while 3 matching aprons safeguarded their attire. Hannah, please wash your hands once more. Harper directed. Always in command. She cast a fleeting look at Jackson. This was a cherished recipe from my mother. We create them on significant occasions. Jackson nodded, fully grasping the importance of his participation in this ritual. What gives significance to today? The 3 siblings shared knowing looks. It's Mom's birthday, Haley finally revealed, her tone steady even though the feelings lingered beneath the surface. On birthdays, we always come together to bake. Jackson felt a constriction in his throat. It truly means a lot to me that you would include me in this, he expressed sincerely. For the next hour, he observed them operate with remarkable synergy, each girl managing distinct responsibilities. Hannah blended the ingredients, Haley took precise measurements, while Harper supervised the entire process. Charlotte took the lead. From the doorway, she observed Jackson's sincere wonder at the girl's talents, her expression gradually warming. Once the first batch of cookies was in the oven, Hannah declared, now we want to show you our room. Their bedroom was compact for 3 blossoming girls, 3 slender beds positioned like spokes of a wheel, each adorned with unique bedding that showcased their individual personalities. Harper's space was meticulously arranged, with books sorted by size in an orderly fashion. In Haley's corner, a small telescope stood proudly alongside a collection of intriguing rocks. Hannah's space was brimming with plush companions and artistic canvases. Mom allowed us to personalize our own areas, Haley elaborated, gesturing towards the walls separated into 3 unique color palettes. She remarked that, despite our outward similarities, our inner selves are quite different. That seems like solid advice, Jackson remarked thoughtfully, observing every aspect of their surroundings. This was Mom's, Harper said suddenly, as she opened a wooden box on the small desk they seemed to share. Within rested a trove of memories, ticket stubs, delicate pressed flowers, a handful of modest jewelry, and a photograph that Jackson instantly recognized. There they were, him and Meredith, vibrant and full of laughter, his arm draped casually around her shoulders as they took in the sights of the Columbia University campus. He recalled the day with vivid clarity, the early autumn leaves just starting to change, Meredith having just discovered she had been awarded the research grant she had long desired. He murmured this softly, almost as if it were a secret meant for his own ears rather than for the girls. She mentioned you were her person for what-ifs, Hannah said gently. Jackson gazed upward, a look of bewilderment on his face. What about her? Her person of possibilities, Haley repeated. The individual who sparked her curiosity about how life might have unfolded had circumstances taken another path. The clarity of the explanation struck Jackson with surprising intensity. He was Meredith's possibility, just as she had been his, in the silent instances when success seemed unfulfilling and accomplishment felt shallow. Do you have a what-if person? Harper asked, her defenses briefly softened by the intimacy of the moment. Jackson gazed at the trio before him, these flawless blends of himself and Meredith, and gave a nod of acknowledgement. I certainly did. Your mother belonged to me. The oven timer rescued him from the wave of emotion that loomed over him. As they hurried to inspect their cookies, he lingered in their room for a brief moment, caressing the photograph softly before returning it to the box. Meredith had woven him into the fabric of her existence, in her own unique manner. Now he needed to prove himself worthy of a place in their daughters' lives, in his own. As autumn settled over New York, Central Park transformed into a canvas of amber and gold hues. Jackson spent his lunch break on a bench by the pond, observing the leaves gently floating on the water's surface. His mind wandered to 3 little girls who had slowly started to fill his thoughts, his plans, and more, his heart. The triplets had settled into a familiar rhythm with him, Saturday afternoons at IY, exploring various museums, parks, or bookstores, always with Charlotte close at hand, meticulously planned and organized. Jackson had mastered the art of understanding their unique personalities, presenting astronomy books for Haley, new ballet slippers for Hannah, and thoughtfully chosen novels for Harper, who was the most reserved of the trio. Today, however, Jackson was not on the agenda to meet with them. He sat in solitude, poring over contracts on his tablet, when a message from Charlotte chimed on his phone. Students have a shortened schedule at school today. Curious if you have some time available this afternoon. There's a question they'd like to pose to you. Jackson effortlessly rescheduled 3 meetings during a conference call and then made their way to a beloved spot, a quaint cafe close to the American Museum of Natural History, where the owner consistently treated the girls to extra whipped cream on their hot chocolate. Upon his arrival, they were already settled at what had turned into their designated table. Harper immersed herself in a book, while Haley animatedly conveyed her thoughts through intricate hand movements, and Hannah busily captured the scene in her ever-present notebook. As they lifted their gazes to meet his, he felt a familiar pang of recognition, marveling at their striking similarities and subtle differences. You came! Hannah exclaimed, the most openly affectionate of the trio. Certainly, Jackson remarked, easing into the vacant chair. Charlotte mentioned you had a question for me. The triplets shared knowing looks, their unspoken understanding evident in the air. At last, Harper set her book aside and fixed her gaze on him. We are embarking on a school project, she started with a sense of purpose, focused on family heritage. Jackson felt a jolt at the mention of family, yet he maintained a calm facade. Everyone is required to create a presentation about their ancestral origins, Haley continued, adjusting her glasses, complete with photographs and artifacts and such. Hannah mentioned that Mom had some items from her side, but we're in the dark about it all. What is it about? Her voice faded, yet the meaning was unmistakable. They were unaware of anything related to their father's lineage, as they had no knowledge of his identity. Charlotte mentioned that you have extensive knowledge about our mother's college friends. Harper spoke with caution, suggesting that perhaps you could assist us in uncovering details about others she was acquainted with. Jackson cast a quick look at Charlotte, who responded with a subtle nod, granting him the go-ahead to tread carefully through this sensitive matter. I'd be glad to assist, he replied, maintaining a steady tone, even as the feelings surged within him. What is the deadline for the project? Haley mentioned it would take 2 weeks. We should gather photographs and discuss traditions and related topics. Jackson's mind raced with possibilities. It seems that your mother's family has roots in Scotland, and she cherished their traditions. She once encouraged me to sample haggis. Hannah let out a soft, melodic laugh. What is haggis? With a feigned gravitas, Jackson declared something truly terrible, prompting smiles from all 3 girls. However, I could share additional insights and assist you in exploring some Scottish traditions for your project. That sounds promising, Harper remarked, maintaining a formal tone yet showing a hint of openness. If you'd like, Hannah said softly, you could come to our apartment this weekend to work on it. All of Mom's old photo albums are kept there. Jackson noticed Charlotte's gaze once more, recognizing the faint astonishment in her expression at the invitation. This marked the first occasion the girls had invited him to their home, instead of convening in a neutral setting. I would appreciate that greatly, he replied, making an effort to suppress the emotion in his voice. As they completed their hot chocolates, Jackson caught Haley observing him with her keen, analytical eyes. She noted how your eyes crinkle at the corners when you smile, reminiscent of Hannah's expression. The straightforward observation struck him with a sudden intensity. Could they have intuitively grasped their bond with him? Did the subtle similarities they shared start to reveal themselves to them? Is that really the case? He managed to say with a casual tone, as Charlotte effortlessly shifted the topic. Yet, as he observed their departure, Jackson sensed a change had occurred. He was welcomed into their space, embraced by their endeavor, and drawn into their inquiries about lineage and kinship. They were inching toward a revelation, however subtle, that could ultimately unveil the truth. For the first time, he permitted himself to dream that one day they could, not merely recognize him as their father, but embrace him as their dad. This time, the brownstone had an unmistakable air about it. As Jackson ascended the steps to Charlotte's apartment, he felt a delicate change in intention. This was more than a mere visit. The triplets had specifically invited him to assist with their heritage project, which focused on family. His stomach nodded as he rapped on the door. Harper responded, her expression as grave as ever. You're right on schedule, she noted, stepping aside to welcome him in. Jackson discovered that being on time made a positive impression on her. She was a young one who cherished structure and dependability. Within the confines of the living room, a project headquarters had taken shape. The coffee table brimmed with an array of craft supplies, while photo albums were arranged with care on the couch. Hannah knelt on the floor, meticulously arranging colored paper, while Haley sat cross-legged, absorbed in her research with a laptop open before her. We're creating a trifold presentation board, Haley explained, her gaze fixed elsewhere. One part dedicated to Mom's heritage, another for Scotland, just as you mentioned, and one for. She paused for a moment, then completed her task. The essence of New York's vibrant culture. Jackson recognized the void in their project, a space where their father's legacy ought to reside. He placed the bag he had carried on the floor and settled onto the edge of the couch. He reached into the bag, saying he had brought some things that could be of assistance. Certain volumes delve into Scottish clans, capturing images of Edinburgh, the birthplace of your mother's lineage, and... He took a moment to let the tension build. Genuine Scottish shortbread. Hannah's eyes sparkled at the mention of treats, yet it was Harper who took the floor to speak. "Before we begin," she stated, her petite voice unexpectedly commanding, "there's a significant matter we must discuss." Jackson experienced a constriction in his chest. "Absolutely." The triplets shared knowing looks, and Charlotte, having watched from the kitchen doorway, settled down nearby, close enough to offer her support yet allowing the girls the freedom to express themselves. During our family meeting, Harper took on the role of the designated spokesperson with clarity. "Concerning you. What can I share about myself?" Jackson maintained a cheerful demeanor even as his heart raced. "Indeed, Haley has confirmed. We discussed the reasons behind your time with us and what it signifies." Hannah nodded with conviction. "We established a few guidelines." Jackson blinked, taken aback by their straightforwardness. "I understand. Could you please share these rules with me?" Harper retrieved a creased piece of paper from her pocket and gently unfolded it. "First rule. You can be our companion, but you can't attempt to take Mom's place." "I would never attempt that," Jackson said gently. "Your mother was one of a kind." Harper nodded, a sense of fulfillment washing over them, and pressed on. "Second guideline. When you commit to a task, it must be done. Keep your word." Jackson wholeheartedly concurred. "Rule 3, Haley interjected. There's no need to attempt to win our camaraderie through lavish gifts." Hannah proposed making an exception for birthdays, but after a vote, we concluded that there would be no exceptions. Jackson couldn't help but smile. "That seems reasonable." Hannah gently interjected, "Rule 4. It's essential that you speak truthfully with us." Silence enveloped the room. Jackson sensed Charlotte's gaze upon him, the gravity of the moment bearing heavily. He vowed it repeatedly, yet the irony of his promise lingered in his mind. Here he stood, professing a commitment to honesty while hiding the most essential truth. And thus, Harper reached the conclusion of Rule 5. If we come to a conclusion, we will choose not to have further interactions with you. It is essential to honor that. The final rule struck Jackson with the force of a tangible impact. The thought that these three little girls could choose to exclude him from their lives once more was nearly too much to bear. Yet he grasped their desire for control, for limits in a world where they had already lost so much. "I accept all your rules," he stated with a serious demeanor. "I appreciate your clarity regarding your requirements." There was a subtle shift in Harper's posture, a hint of relaxation creeping in. She carefully folded the paper and slipped it back into her pocket. "All right, let's begin the project now." For the next 2 hours, they collaborated, piecing together their presentation, with Jackson thoughtfully recounting tales from Meredith's college days and sharing insights into Scottish traditions, while skillfully avoiding any inquiries about paternity. When Hannah finally stumbled upon the shortbread and urged everyone to pause for a cookie break, the mood had brightened significantly. As Jackson assisted Haley in exploring clan tartans, she abruptly inquired, "Did you know our dad?" He almost let the book slip from his grasp. "What prompts your inquiry?" She shrugged, her gaze fixed on the glow of her laptop screen. "I'm simply curious. Mother rarely mentioned him." Before Jackson could gather his thoughts, Charlotte stepped in effortlessly. "Ladies, why not present Mr. Montgomery with the photos you've chosen for the Scotland section?" As Jackson made his way home later, Haley's question lingered in his thoughts, refusing to fade away. The girls exhibited sharp intelligence and keen observation skills. When did they begin to establish a connection? What about the dots? And when the moment arrived, would they be able to overlook the essential falsehood? How about the Central Park Zoo? Jackson proposed, casting a look over the table at the triplets as they completed their sandwiches. On a Saturday afternoon, the sharp November air drifted through the atmosphere. Through the cafe windows, their familiar weekend outing evolving into a cozy ritual. Harper shook her head with determination. "We've visited that place 5 times already. Every spring, we would go with Mom." "So, the Natural History Museum, is it?" He made another attempt. I've experienced that as well, Haley remarked, readjusting her glasses. We've encountered every dinosaur, not once, but twice. Jackson nodded, understanding that he had to propose a fresh idea, one that wouldn't intertwine with their recollections of adventures with Meredith. He had been mindful of that, not substituting their experiences with hers, but crafting unique moments that could coexist with those cherished memories. How about ice skating? Hannah proposed abruptly, her eyes sparkling with excitement. We have yet to experience ice skating. Jackson beamed. Woolman Rink? That sounds like it could be an enjoyable experience. We don't know how, Harper said right away, her pragmatic side coming to the forefront. I have the ability to instruct. Jackson extended the offer. Back in my day, I spent a lot of time on my skateboard just like you do now. The girls shared knowing looks, engaging in one of their unspoken dialogues before Harper gave a subtle nod. All right, but we may not excel in that area. That's the exciting aspect, Jackson promised her, discovering something fresh as a team. An hour later, they arrived at the rink, the girls wrapped in coordinating scarves and mittens that Charlotte had insisted on, despite the triplets' usual preference for unique colors. Jackson had set up a private lesson with a professional instructor, not to flaunt his affluence but because he admired how Harper approached the ice with determination, Haley with thoughtful analysis, and Hannah with eager apprehension. In the initial moments, Hannah burst into laughter, Haley scrutinized the event, while Harper promptly stood up to give it another shot. Jackson navigated among them, providing a reassuring touch, simple guidance, and unwavering support. As the second hour unfolded, all three navigated the rink with increasing ease, their confidence blossoming with every circuit they completed. Watch me! Hannah exclaimed, releasing Jackson's hand as she moved forward with confidence. She teetered yet held her ground, her expression glowing with a sense of achievement. I'm in on it as well, Haley chimed in, trying a slight turn that almost resulted in chaos before Jackson grasped her elbow. Even Harper appeared to be having a good time. Her typical serious demeanor transformed into focused determination as she honed her craft. As the afternoon progressed, the girls became weary yet remained resolute, committed to perfecting this newfound ability. As Hannah hit the ice with a thud, tears welled up in her eyes, betraying her brave facade. Jackson quickly knelt beside her, concern etched on his face. You know, he said softly, even the most skilled skaters stumble. The crucial aspect is rising again. Hannah let out a soft sniffle. Is it always this painful? Jackson replied candidly, not always. With time, it becomes more manageable, and you grow more resilient. She examined his expression, then gave a nod and accepted his assistance to rise. As they returned to where Charlotte stood with steaming cups of hot chocolate, Hannah gently intertwined her small hand with Jackson's. This was enjoyable, she stated plainly. Even the descent. Haley gave a thoughtful nod, signaling her agreement. The dynamics of skating are truly fascinating. The edge generates heat through contact with the ice, causing a thin layer to melt beneath you, allowing for a smooth glide, only to refreeze almost instantly afterward. Haley, Harper interjected, rolling her eyes. Not everything requires a detailed explanation. Jackson chuckled. In fact, I find it quite intriguing. Perhaps we could discover some literature on the science behind sports. Haley's eyes sparkled with excitement at the suggestion, and even Harper seemed intrigued. As they sat sipping hot chocolate, their cheeks rosy from the chill and activity, Jackson sensed a change in the air. The day offered no dramatic insights, no profound emotional shifts, just the quiet joy of discovering something new together, of stumbling and rising again, of creating memories that were distinctly theirs alone. When he dropped them off at Charlotte's later, Harper caught him off guard by asking, "Can we skate again next Saturday?" "I wish to refine my turns." Though it lacked overt emotion, Harper's words carried weight, signaling her desire for his return and hinting at her vision for their shared future. Without a doubt, Jackson expressed, his heart brimming with a joy it hadn't known in years. So, it's settled for Saturday. The jewelry store on Fifth Avenue was accustomed to catering to affluent clientele, yet even they appeared taken aback by Jackson Montgomery's inquiry. He described 3 identical lockets, each custom-designed, to the master jeweler. I desire them to be alike yet infused with subtle variations that showcase 3 unique personalities. The jeweler acknowledged with a nod, jotting down notes. What about the engravings you brought up, Jackson? Presented a sheet featuring 3 different versions of the same message. He had devoted weeks to contemplating this gift, aiming for it to be significant yet not excessive, something the girls could cherish without any sense of unease. He mentioned that he would like them by next Saturday. Mr. Montgomery, custom work of this caliber usually necessitates, Jackson interjected softly. The cost is irrelevant. This holds significant value. The upcoming Saturday marked the 9th birthday of the triplets. Charlotte had extended an invitation to him for the intimate gathering at their apartment, marking yet another milestone in his slowly developing bond with the girls. In recent months, they had established a cozy rhythm. Saturdays were reserved for adventures, Tuesdays he occasionally participated in dinner gatherings, and from time to time, he would grace school events or ballet performances with his presence. He had discovered deeper insights into their unique traits, Harper's unwavering protectiveness over her sisters and her hidden passion for poetry, Haley's sharp intellect paired with her impressive collection of scientific journals, and Hannah's creative flair along with her remarkable sensitivity to the emotions of those around her. They had transformed from mere triplets in his eyes to 3 unique, remarkable little girls. The birthday celebration was intimate, featuring only Charlotte, a handful of school friends, and Jackson. The girls had asked for an absence of childish decorations, yet Charlotte found a middle ground with elegant blue and silver balloons and a cake crafted to resemble a stack of books, merging Harper's passion for reading, Haley's thirst for knowledge, and Hannah's flair for artistic design. As the moment for gifts arrived, Jackson held back, observing as the other packages were unwrapped, new ballet shoes from Charlotte, books from friends, art supplies, and science kits. At last, he presented each girl with a delicately wrapped, small box, exuding elegance. These hold a unique significance, he murmured gently, something I believed you would appreciate having. The triplets unwrapped their boxes at the same moment, just as they frequently approached significant tasks. Within each lay a sterling silver locket, elegantly oval yet marked by delicate variations. Harper's featured a design with sharper angles. Haley's showcased a delicate sapphire accent. Hannah's edges were gently curved. They're exquisite, Hannah murmured, eagerly unwrapping hers. Within each locket lay a small photograph of Meredith, beaming just as the girls recalled her before she fell ill. On the other side, there lies an engraving. Your mother's strength resonates within you, as captured in Harper's. In Haley's, the essence of your mother's wisdom resonates within you. Within Hannah's, the essence of your mother's heart resides in you. Silence enveloped the room as every girl absorbed her message. Jackson paused, a wave of anxiety washing over him as he feared he might have crossed a line. Had he overstepped his bounds? Is the gift too intimate? Harper was the one to make the first move, delicately closing her locket and easing the chain over her head. Haley trailed behind, meticulously adjusting the length until the locket rested flawlessly in the center. Hannah gazed up at Jackson, her eyes glistening with tears before she joined him in shedding her own. What led you to that conclusion? She inquired softly. Guess what? Jackson inquired. That Mom always said those things to us, Harper explained, her voice carrying a gentle weight. She referred to me as her source of strength. And me her insight, Haley added. And me her heart, Hannah concluded. Jackson sensed a warmth welling up in his eyes. He confessed that he was unaware. However, your mother once shared with me that she recognized those traits within herself. It seems she shared them with all of you. Charlotte, observing from a distance, offered him a subtle nod of approval. Although they had never openly addressed his actual connection to the girls, Jackson had a feeling she might have figured it out. Or maybe Meredith had shared her thoughts with her sister prior to her passing. As the celebration unfolded, Jackson observed each girl occasionally caressing her locket, a fresh gesture that appeared to bring them solace. As the moment to part approached, Hannah embraced him warmly, a gesture that had become her cherished routine. Haley extended her customary high five, accompanied by a warm and sincere smile. And Harper, maintaining her quiet demeanor yet with a gentler touch, embarked on an unfamiliar action. She reached out her hand with a sense of formality. "Thank you for attending our birthday," she said with the seriousness of a 9-year-old, "and for keeping Mom in our thoughts while we were together." Jackson grasped her petite hand, reflecting her earnest demeanor. "I appreciate being part of your celebration." As he stepped out of the brownstone, he caught sight of the 3 girls at the window, their gazes fixed on him. 3 identical faces, each reflecting a unique emotion, adorned with the locket that linked them to their mother and, in this moment, to him as well. Winter enveloped New York, turning the city into a scene of snow-kissed structures and foggy panes. For Jackson, the shifting season introduced fresh melodies to his developing bond with the Saturday ice skating tradition, as the girls honed their skills week by week. Tuesday dinners now showcased lively discussions about literature, scientific discoveries, factual insights, and ballet techniques. And sometimes, when Charlotte craved a night to unwind, Jackson would take over, not exactly babysitting, as Harper was quick to clarify, but simply spending time together. On a chilly evening in early December, Jackson made his way to the brownstone, a folder securely tucked under his arm. The girls welcomed him in their unique ways. Hannah enveloped him in an exuberant hug, Haley launched into an elaborate description of her science experiment, and Harper offered a meticulous evaluation of his timeliness. "What is that?" Harper inquired, gesturing towards the folder while Jackson draped his coat on the rack. "There's something I wanted to share with you 3, he said. "How about after dinner?" Charlotte had prepared a delightful homemade lasagna, and the 4 of them seamlessly settled into their familiar routine. Jackson meticulously set the table as Haley focused on the exact timing for reheating. Meanwhile, Hannah crafted napkins into intricate shapes, while Harper managed the whole process with her clipboard checklist. As they dined, Jackson observed the significant transformations that had unfolded in the 6 months since their initial encounter. Conversations now unfolded effortlessly, shared jokes had emerged, and his presence had become a familiar, anticipated part of the routine. The triplets still upheld certain boundaries, some topics were off-limits, and certain memories remained private, yet the barriers had diminished considerably. After dinner, while the girls busied themselves with clearing the table, a chore chart displayed prominently on the refrigerator, Jackson took the opportunity to open the folder resting on the coffee table. "I have a project I'd like your thoughts on," he remarked nonchalantly. The young women congregated, filled with intrigue. Within lay architectural sketches, detailed plans for what seemed to be an expansive apartment. "What is this all about?" Haley inquired, her gaze fixed on the measurements. "E is considering a move," Jackson elaborated. "The space I occupy feels overly expansive for a single individual, lacking the warmth and essence of a true home." Hannah examined the drawings, contemplating the plans for a new apartment. "The property features 4 bedrooms. "Indeed," Jackson replied with caution. "A master bedroom accompanied by 3 additional rooms. I was wondering if the 3 of you could assist me in determining the design for those rooms." The triplets shared knowing looks, their unspoken understanding evident. "What's the reason for needing 3 additional bedrooms?" Harper inquired straightforwardly, true to her practical nature. Jackson inhaled deeply. This was the moment he had been gearing up for, not a complete unveiling but a significant stride in that direction. "I thought it could be enjoyable if, at some point, you 3 would consider staying over from time to time, provided that it feels right for you." A quiet moment passed between the girls. Then Haley, ever the pragmatist. "Approval from our aunt is necessary." Without hesitation, Jackson readily agreed. "I have already had a conversation with Charlotte. She believes it could be a worthwhile notion in the future, but only if it aligns with your desires." Hannah was eagerly poring over the blueprints, her enthusiasm palpable. Would it be possible for us to each have our own room, each adorned in unique colors? That's precisely what I had in mind, Jackson remarked, a smile spreading across his face at her enthusiasm. Every room crafted uniquely for each individual. Harper held on to her doubts. We've always had Aunt Charlotte with us, not since Mom was around. I see, Jackson replied softly. This doesn't need to be addressed immediately. It's merely strategizing for potential outcomes. Haley adjusted her glasses, meticulously examining the layout. The corner room basks in the most natural light. It would be ideal for my telescope. Harper cast her a glance. Are you already selecting rooms? I'm considering my choices, Haley clarified. This is a theoretical examination. Hannah had already taken up a pencil, deftly sketching ballerinas in the margins of the blueprint. A bar could be installed along one wall of my room for practice purposes. Jackson observed them intently, assessing their responses. This was a sensitive area, hinting at a profound involvement in their lives, a lasting bond. Out of the blue, it was Harper who voiced the question that had lingered in silence for months. What is the reason behind all of this? What is the reason for you? Why do you care about us so deeply? Silence enveloped the room. Even Hannah ceased her drawing. Jackson sensed the weight of 3 identical pairs of eyes upon him, poised in anticipation. He selected his words with great precision. You 3 hold the utmost significance in my life at this moment. Your presence and the moments we've shared have transformed my entire perspective. But what is the reason? Harper insisted. We're merely young souls you encountered at a memorial. Jackson cast a quick look at the kitchen, where Charlotte stood in the doorway, attentive and listening. She offered him a subtle nod, granting him the freedom to steer this moment in whatever direction he chose. He spoke gently, revealing, I held deep feelings for your mother. I can recognize so many of her traits in all of you. However, I've grown to appreciate each of you for precisely who you are. He took a moment, then continued, some individuals enter our lives through birth, others by chance, and some through choice. I am making the decision to be a part of your lives, if you allow me to carry on. Hannah took the initiative, settling down next to him on the couch. She stated plainly that she wanted a purple room. Haley acknowledged with a nod, jotting down a note on the blueprint. The illumination in the corner room is truly exceptional, and I would require shelves for my collection. Harper hesitated at first, yet her demeanor revealed a growing warmth. I guess it could be alright to have another place to stay from time to time, then, with my usual straightforwardness. However, I would require a substantial bookcase. The largest one I can discover, Jackson vowed, his spirit buoyant like never before. As the night deepened and the girls settled into their slumber, Jackson made his way to the door, only to be halted by Charlotte's presence. You're making great progress with them, she said softly. They have faith in you. Insufficient to reveal the entire truth, Jackson responded. Not at this moment. Charlotte pondered this. They are intelligent young women. They are already inquiring about the similarities they observe. Haley in particular. I understand. Fear grips me. That they might sense a sense of betrayal. Charlotte completed it for him. That poses a potential danger. However, the more time you take, the greater that risk grows. Jackson acknowledged the caution with a nod. Before long, he assured. I simply want to ensure they feel safe and secure initially. As he departed the brownstone that evening, he cast a look at the windows where the triplets lay in slumber. 3 little girls who transformed his whole universe. 3 daughters who were slowly weaving their presence into his heart, while he cautiously and optimistically sought to weave himself into theirs. It's really big, Hannah whispered, her voice reverberating softly in the vacant apartment. The 4 of them gathered in the heart of Jackson's new residence, a roomy Upper West Side apartment featuring expansive windows that framed views of Central Park. After 6 months of meticulous planning, designing, and construction, the space had been transformed into the exact vision they had shared. Would you like to take a look at your rooms? Jackson inquired, striving to keep his anxiety at bay. The triplets exchanged glances and trailed behind him down the hallway. He swung open 3 doors, each unveiling a distinctively crafted environment. Harper's featuring towering bookshelves and a cozy window seat perfect for immersing oneself in a good book. Haley's features a desk designed for her scientific endeavors, complemented by the anticipated corner windows. Hannah stands gracefully by the ballet bar, embodying softness. Vibrant purple walls frame a serene space, with an easel positioned gracefully by the window. Hannah's perfect breath swirled into her room. Dimensionally optimal, Haley concurred, already experimenting with the height of her desk. Harper glided her fingers over the spines of the books. Jackson had adorned her shelves with timeless classics and contemporary favorites. She spoke softly, recalling all our requests. Everyone, Jackson affirmed. However, there's an additional space I would like to present to you. He guided them toward a door situated at the end of the corridor. Within the space, a cozy study revealed 3 framed photographs adorning the wall. Meredith alongside each of the girls during their infancy. This is the memory room, he elaborated. A space where your mother will forever remain a part of this home, as well. In that moment, the 3 girls found themselves utterly at a loss for words. The morning air was fresh and invigorating as Jackson positioned himself behind the triplets at Greenwood Cemetery. Nearly a year had gone by since Eleanor's funeral, the day he first caught sight of 3 identical little girls peering at him from behind an oak tree. They stood side by side at Meredith's grave, the gleaming stone etched with her name reflecting the winter sunlight. Every girl grasped a solitary white rose. Hannah softly recounted how her mother cherished white roses, as she tenderly laid hers against the stone. Haley remarked that they represented fresh starts as she placed hers next to Hannah's. Harper was the final one to set down her flower. And remembrance, she concluded gently. Jackson held his tongue, allowing them this moment of silence. The previous year had changed everything for them. His opulent yet hollow life now brimming with ballet performances, science endeavors, and tales at bedtime. Their realm of sorrow slowly broadening to embrace fresh opportunities, new relationships. Charlotte had assisted him in getting ready for this day, feeling that the girls were finally prepared. The triplets had been spending the night at his apartment consistently for months, transforming their rooms into personal sanctuaries, adorned with cherished belongings and memories. Harper pivoted abruptly, her gaze intense as it locked onto Jackson's. "We understand," she stated, plainly. Jackson's heart ceased to beat. "Guess what? Haley made it clear that you are our father. We have come to a conclusion. Hannah mentioned that we discovered Mom's letters. The messages she kept to herself." Jackson lowered himself, locking eyes with them. "I wanted to share something with you, we're aware of that as well," Harper interjected. After what seemed like an endless moment, she moved closer and grasped his hand. "Mom would be pleased to see you here now, Dad."